Hi guys, my name is Mackenzie Cox and I will be talking about the Cameron Todd Willingham case. Willingham was convicted of arson murder of his 3 young children. Willingham was faced with the death penalty since this was the ultimate punishment for this type of crime in Texas during the 90s. So to talk about the background of the house fire, he was spotted by a neighbor standing outside of his family home, mourning and crying, saying, my babies," indicating that his children were still trapped inside. So, who resided in the home? This is a family picture. This is his wife, Stacy, who was not home at the time. This is his oldest daughter, Amber, who was 2 years old at the time of the fire, and then his twins, Cameron and Carmen, who were only 1 during the time. Unfortunately, his 3 children did not come out of the fire alive. They all passed away from carbon monoxide poisoning, which is caused by smoke inhalation. So the issue with this case and why it is so popular today is that new evidence is being brought up saying that Texas executed a possibly innocent man. So to jump right into things, I'm going to talk about the evidence that was initially used against Willingham that led to his conviction of arson murder and why he received the death penalty. So to start off, investigators, after the fire had been extinguished, he had satanic images within his home. Another indicator that he had set the fire was the neighbor that initially found him said that he seemed like he had given up on helping his children very easily, and then when authorities came to question him, he was more so focused on the popularity he was receiving than the safety of his children and ensuring that they were going to live or all measures were being taken for them to be saved. Another source of evidence used that there was a direct jailhouse informant that testified during his trial, stating that Willingham confessed to him during his jail time, saying that he did set the house on fire on purpose. The core evidence that was used during this trial, which I believe is what convicted him primarily, was that it brought back to the fire investigator report, saying that this was set on purpose and there was 20 indicators that this was arson. So I have a picture of, this is what all 3 children's beds looked like after the fire, and fire investigators said that the only way that a fire burns like that is if you put flammable liquid directly underneath the bed. Also included in the fire investigator report was that Willingham had little to no injuries. Willingham's case was settled in 1992, and he sat on death row for 7 years until people started to reopen his case. What was very surprising to me was a week before his scheduled execution date, there was more evidence brought to his case indicating that there is possible innocence, and there was an appeal set, but the governor of Texas at the time denied it and wanted to continue with the execution anyway. This act by the governor of Texas at the time brings us into the evaluation of the criminal justice system for this case. So the governor did not postpone the execution, even though there was effort and a solid appeal to his case. And also, Willingham's defense attorney admits that he did not even believe him during the trial. Lastly, jurors heard evidence that Willingham confessed during jail time. There are some ways that I think the criminal justice system can definitely improve and apply to future cases like this. The first is the one about the governor. He should have postponed the execution after found that the defendant may not be guilty, because at the time it was legal to postpone execution for 30 days. Going to the jailhouse informant, I do think the criminal justice system should have valued the credibility of that informant. Next, I do think that Willingham's defense attorney should not have exposed his client. I think that violates client confidentiality, and regardless of how the case ended, that is always supposed to stay to yourself. I think it is important to remember that defense attorneys are not meant to believe you, but they are meant to protect you and your defense in court. Coming back to the credibility of evidence, it was brought up that fire investigators during this time made their decision on hunches, and arson science was changing, and a lot of it was very unclear in the report. Lastly, I don't think the jurors should have made their decision based on a jailhouse informant, because that could just be him jealous that this man may possibly be innocent and not serve any time like he is waiting for his trial. So if the evidence was more so a physical recording rather than just a fellow inmate testifying, I think it would be valued more to the result. After Willingham's death, it was found that the satanic images evidence that was used against him was actually Iron Maiden and Metallica posters for heavy metal bands that were very popular during this time. And it also came public that the jailhouse informant that only said that he confessed to him in jail took back what he said and said that he was forced to lie in court by state prosecutors. Modern fire experts took a look at the initial fire investigator report conducted on Willingham's case and restated that the investigators during this time made their decisions on hunches, and they did not eliminate accidental causes. After all the info given, do you think Texas executed an innocent man? Highly recommend the documentary linked to this case. It is called Death by Fire. It is about 50 minutes long and gives you a more in-depth idea of all the evidence and how the criminal justice system responded and how they came to their decision and how it was uplifted later on. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, don't hesitate. Thanks for watching.